Okay everyone, welcome. This week's recipe is banana bread without butter. Now instead of butter, we're going to be using vegetable oil, which is an amazing alternative to butter, good for vegans. So here's the ingredients. We've got our baking soda, vanilla extract, salt, canola oil, 4 super ripe bananas, sour cream, 2 eggs, flour, and sugar. And then the tools that we're using are a KitchenAid stand mixer and some bowls and some other stuff, which you'll see in a minute. Now forgive my camera work here. I'm using a DSLR camera and I'm trying to get it to focus and it's not focusing correctly. So the first step is to sift together your dry ingredients. So first things first is we're adding the flour. Now you can see we have just a metal mixing bowl and a pasta strainer. Now if you have a metal pasta strainer, that'll work completely fine to sift your ingredients. If you want to use an actual sifter though, you can go on Amazon and grab one. And I have a link to a sifter in the video description below if you'd like to get one that way. So once the flour is added, we then move on to the baking soda. And I linger here for a minute on this flour. Not sure why. Okay. This is Red Mill baking soda. It's out of Seattle. It's super good, but you can use whatever baking soda you have on hand. And just add that in there. And then finally, we're adding the salt. And you do not have to use kosher salt. I would actually advise to use table salt because it's a little finer, but kosher salt's just fine. No pun intended. So now we're just going to sift the dry ingredients into that mixing bowl. And what sifting does is it just makes sure that all your dry ingredients are mixed well without having it be very clumpy. It creates a lot of air inside your dry ingredients, which is basically what you're doing this for. Now you're going to set your dry ingredients to the side, and now we're going to crack 2 eggs into a little glass dish, and then we're going to add this to our KitchenAid mixing bowl. And you do not have to use a KitchenAid mixer. You can use a hand mixer, you can use a whisk, and just use elbow grease and burn off some of the calories from eating this banana bread. So we're adding the sugar here, and this is just basic white sugar. So we're going to drop the top, lock it in place, and turn it on. And now we're going to let this fully emulsify for about 10 minutes. And emulsification means that you're just combining the eggs and the sugar and getting air in there. And you'll see the after. It's actually a much lighter color. It's really cool. And again, I apologize for the camera work here, guys. I'm just going to move on to my iPhone later. So this is not the most appetizing look and feel here of these, taking these ripe bananas and putting them in this bowl. But you're basically taking your 4 ripe bananas and you're going to add them into a small bowl. And then using your fork, you're just going to mash them up. And I actually skipped the 4th banana because the way it dropped into the bowl was so unappetizing. So just mix these a little bit with your fork until they're well mashed. And you're doing this for, in that 10-minute period while the eggs and sugar are mixing. Look at that color. Isn't that crazy? It went from like a darker yellow to a lighter kind of off-white. And that's because it's got a lot of air in there. Okay, now we're adding our 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. And you can use any kind of oil you want. You could use olive oil, you could use coconut oil, avocado oil, but we're just using straight up vegetable canola oil. And now you want to drizzle it in very slowly. And I'm speeding up the video here, but just you can watch the oil level drop. You want to do it very, very slowly. And once that's done mixing, we're going to take our banana mixture and add that in. And then we're going to mix the banana mixture for probably like just 5 to 10 seconds. You don't want to mix it too long because you want there to be nice little chunks of banana in your banana bread. And if you mixed it too much, then it would kind of get spread out a bit too much, if that makes sense. So let this go for, 5 to 10 seconds. Very short amount of time. Boom, we're done. Now we're adding the remaining wet ingredients. So that would be the 2 tablespoons of sour cream and the vanilla extract, which is 1 teaspoon. We use Penzi spices. I'm not sure if you guys have that near you, but if you do, it's just, they make the most amazing spices. If you can't, just make sure you get some high quality actual vanilla extract. Try not to get the vanilla, the knockoff stuff. And then we're just gonna mix that for a minute and turn that guy off. So here comes the fun part. This is where we're gonna fold in our dry ingredients. Now, folding in means to add a little bit of the dry ingredients at a time and fold them in. And you'll see what I mean when that actually happens here. So this is the folding motion that you want to do. Just kind of fold them in. Now, when we were recording this video, we didn't fold it in well enough, and you'll see at the end of the recipe how that impacted this. So if you have this in a stand mixer, if you don't want to fold it, you can actually just mix this for like 10 to 20 seconds using the same exact attachment you used before. It actually turns out for better bread. So don't do what we did. Actually do it for a little bit longer. And now we're pouring our mixture into our bread pan. And again, you do not need to pre-butter your pan because the oil in the recipe will make it fall out rather easily. So we're going to drop it in the oven, which we have preheated to 350. So make sure you've done that before you do all this. Preheat your oven to 350, and we're going to set the timer for 45 minutes. And what else should I do in this 45 minutes but play with my daughter? So here's some shots of me playing with my kid.
Do-do-do. Do-do-do.
So friggin' adorable. All right, 45 minutes has passed, and that bread looks so good. But I'm going to make sure that it's done. And you know the toothpick method where you stick a toothpick in and see if it comes out with anything attached to it? Well, I don't have any toothpicks, but I have a chopstick. So I'm going to make a big, ugly hole in the top, and you can see that it's still pretty gooey. So I have an older oven, so I'm going to put it back in, put another 5 minutes on the timer. Boom, magic of video, 5 minutes have passed. It looks even better. I'm going to pull that bad girl out, and boom. Now, I bought a really nice macro lens for my iPhone to shoot nature photography, and I'm going to do some gratuitous close-ups of the banana bread crust here. And there's no point to this, but I just think it looks beautiful. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna let it sit for an hour. And you can see that it's pulled away from the edges of the baking dish after it's cooled, which makes it a lot easier to get the bread out. Now, I've made this recipe before, and normally when I turn this over, it just drops right out. And I thought that's what was gonna happen here, but I was completely wrong. So all you need to do is grab one of your rubber spatulas and just take it along the edge and just gently, push the spatula edge all the way down till it hits the bottom of the bread pan. Just very gingerly do this. You don't need to go intensely. And then we're gonna flip this over, and bam, there is our beautiful banana bread. Ugh. I'm just thinking back to eating this. It was so friggin' good. Okay, now it's still a bit hot actually after an hour, so we're gonna flip this guy over, and here is this gratuitous shot. Picture that toothpick hole or that chopstick hole not being there if you can. But here's what it is. Now here is the gratuitous. Let's cut this bad girl, and I'm using my shun knife. I should have actually used a bread knife, but who cares? Shun knives are amazing. Oh, look at that cross section. Okay, so what you see here is you can see the bottom of the bread is darker than the top, and what that means is it set, which means that we didn't mix the wet and the dry ingredients long enough. So when you make this recipe, if you're gonna fold it for a bit longer, or just use the mixer and mix it for a bit longer. Now, I know this is a banana bread recipe without butter, but I'm actually adding vegan butter because I like the saltiness to contrast with the sweetness. Feel free to do that. And closing out, guys, with just a beautiful cinematic shot of some extremely ripe bananas. Thanks for watching.